What's up everyone, Andre here to answer your questions about Luigi's Mansion 3. Because even though we posted a preview video and some gameplay clips a few days ago, apparently you guys still have a ton of questions about this game. So I'm here to answer as many of them as I can, within a reasonable amount of time hopefully. So let's just go ahead and dive right on in. And first up we have one from Becky who asks, how much time would you spend petting Polar Pup? Becky, all the time. And actually real quick, Luigi actually does pet Polar Pup in the game, so don't worry, he takes care of it for us. Next up, we have a question from Sebastian who asks, is the game's formula more similar to the first game, like with lots of mini-bosses, or the second game with mission and level structure? So I would say it's actually somewhere between the two. I still need to think about a little bit more about this for the review, but it's pretty much a pretty good middle ground in that this is one giant connected mansion, but it is kind of divided up or pretty segregated floor by floor, in that each floor feels like its own level, but not to the extent that the mansions did in Luigi's Mansion 2, especially with how those mansions were mission-based. You won't find that here. Like it's all one seamless experience for the most part, and I do like that. So if I had to say, it's probably closer to Luigi's Mansion 1, but it is kind of like a perfect middle ground between the two. Amuse asks, what do you love most about the gameplay? Oh man, that's a good question. Probably the co-op so far. I find that just works really well. Actually, Luigi in general, let's put it that way. Luigi is hilarious by himself, by the way. The way he reacts in some cutscenes, or even anywhere, is just great, in that he doesn't really react. It's always really funny. But yeah, what he adds to the gameplay can't be understated. Between the puzzles and the co-op, having someone help you out at any time is super cool. The Hypist asks, who's the best boss ghost? So, the best boss ghost I actually can't talk about. It's at the very end of Chapter 8, and I can talk up to the boss, but I can't talk about anything beyond the boss. So yeah, I'll just say that one's the best. So far, there's more that I haven't played yet, but yeah, I can't show him quite yet or talk about him quite yet. Ryan asks, is the game fairly easy? How long does it take to beat the game? I can't answer how long it takes to fully beat yet because I haven't beaten it yet. What I can say is I'm pretty sure I was about halfway through the game for the preview, and that was about 6 to 6.5 hours. So read into that what you will. I'll be able to answer that question a little bit more accurately later on. Bradward Fright asks, and is the game easy? I would say I haven't died yet, so yeah, I would say as one who's experienced a lot of Luigi's Mansion, it's definitely on the easier side. Actually, I take that back. I finally did die after the preview, so I have died once. Beyond that, though, I hadn't died before that point. And so yeah, I would say it's definitely on the easier side, especially if you're used to Luigi's Mansion. If you're brand new to it, it might be a fair amount more difficult, but just because of how the game works. But yeah, as one who's experienced, it's not too bad. Bradward Fried asks, is Polar Pup still the best boy? You know it, of course he is. TJ Garvin asks, are there any features from the original Luigi's Mansion or even Dark Moon absent from the game that you miss? Yeah, actually, I'm glad you brought this up, because there is one feature from the original game I do miss, and that is how you could use the Game Boy Horror to enter like a picture mode or first-person mode and look around and have Luigi comment on where parts in the environment you kind of took a picture of. I miss that. I miss being able to look at the environment closer up and seeing the detail in it, and I also miss Luigi's commentary throughout the game. Other than that, nothing else is jumping out at me at the moment for things I missed, because Luigi's Mansion 3 does cover the rest pretty well in terms of like granular gameplay features. Succulent Turnip asks, does it have several Mario buttons like Luigi's Mansion 2? It does. In fact, I'll probably post a video about it before I post this Q&A, or maybe after. At some point I'll make a video about it, I think. So stay tuned for that, but rest assured it's there. It's on the D-pad. Left, down, and right on the D-pad all activated. They all do the same thing, so there you go. Ricardo asks, is there any reason to revisit floors for non-completionist reasons, or are they just finished and you never need to go back? So, again, I'm only halfway, or a little over halfway through now, so I can't say for sure that there's not more elements later. On the whole, though, it seems like it is pretty segregated, so once you finish a floor, there really isn't a whole lot of reason to go back. There have been a couple of exceptions so far related to both the story and like progression-related reasons that did force me back to a floor or two. But for the most part, it does seem like once you finish one, you're pretty much done, except for if you want to go back for the gems and also the booze that are hidden around the mansion or the hotel. Dian asks, do you think the game should be darker? I don't think so. I mean, I need to play more for the review, of course, but I'm pretty happy with the brightness levels they found, because the game itself does seem to be darker than it came across in trailers. Also, by the way, when you start the game, there is an actual slider, like a brightness slider, and it asks you to adjust the brightness to the point where they can't see the boo on screen at all. So there is a setting in there that can adjust it for different TVs. Brightness or lack thereof isn't a big concern. It's definitely darker than the trailers itself, and it's been working fine in my experience. John asks, is there a good amount of ghost variety? Part 1 had different colors and good variety. 2 had the same ghost in different costumes. So, I would say, again, like my earlier answer, it kind of strikes a middle ground between the two. I don't think, in terms of general enemies, it's as diverse as Luigi's Mansion 1. I'm basing that only by memory. Maybe I'm wrong if you break it out. But it does seem like it adheres a little bit closer to 2 in that it reuses the same types of enemies, but in more situations. You know, with them wearing different kinds of gear, and or using different objects, or they're equipped with different things. So it definitely feels more diverse in that sense than Luigi's Mansion 2, I would say. However, one area that it does feel closer to Luigi's Mansion 1 is with the amount of boss characters. There is a boss per floor, and they really feel more like portrait ghosts to me in that sense, because there's so many of them, which Luigi's Mansion 2 didn't have. So that really helps add to the diversity, and really makes it feel like it's not reusing ghosts as much as Dark Moon did. Francisco asks, is it really, really creepy like old times or more family friendly? I would say, with one major exception so far, it probably is a little bit closer to Dark Moon in terms of general atmosphere. Granted, Luigi's Mansion has never been that creepy, but I do think Luigi's Mansion 1 is a little bit creepier than Dark Moon was, and I would say than Dark Moon 2, than Luigi's Mansion 3 is as well. But there is one part of Luigi's Mansion 3 that is a little bit creepy, I would say. But yeah, it's definitely closer to 2 in that sense. Shar asks, is Bowser going to make an appearance? If he does, I haven't seen him yet, and if he does, I don't know if I would spoil it either. I did notice that the claws that pop out of the drawers early into the game did seem Bowser-esque, but they could have just been generic claws too that scare Luigi. So, I don't know. No clear signs of Bowser yet. Joshua Taylor asks, have you got to play around with co-op, and does it make the game any easier or more difficult in any way? Yeah, I got to play about at least an hour of co-op, actually probably about an hour and a half between the preview event too. And I can't say for sure it makes it easy, but I haven't replayed the same section in not co-op to confirm. It probably does. I don't see how it couldn't make it easier because you have twice the help. But the game's already pretty easy, so it didn't stand out to me if it was making an impactful difference. I would say it makes the game more fun, I think, based on the playtime I've had so far. It was really enjoyable playing with a friend, going through these areas and kind of like ganging up on these ghosts, so I enjoyed that. Frocles asks, how many portrait ghosts are there? Well, there are 0 portrait ghosts, but like I said, there is a boss for each floor, and I believe there is 17 floors right around there, so effectively 17-ish bosses, give or take. Super Gamer 64 asks, how long is Luigi's Mansion 3, and is a ghost compendium for ScareScraper returning, the one that showed the special ghost you can access every 5 floors, and how many ScareScraper modes are there? The Ghost Compendium does return, at least for the main adventure, because you can access your ghost log and see all the different types of ghosts you've encountered, including boss characters, and there is a special section as well too, that I was wondering why I hadn't filled any out of it yet, despite being halfway through the game, and I think it's because it probably does tie into the ScareScraper, as you mentioned. So yeah, it does seem like those return as well, and I'm guessing those same ghosts in that mode, because again, I haven't encountered them in the main game. As for how many modes the ScareScraper has, I believe it's only 2, if I understand your question correctly, and that you can choose whether you want to play through 5 floors or 10 floors. Beyond that, there are different objectives per each floor, in which case, if that's what you meant, there's several more than that. I'm not even sure how many there are. Most of them are like, hunting down all the ghosts, but there's also collecting a set amount of coins, or finding the toads hidden around the stage. There's 4 toads, and I think there's even a few others beyond that. So if that's what you meant, then yeah, you'll encounter various objectives throughout your ScareScraper time. Inkling Mario asks, how many floors are there in the hotel? As I said, I think about 17 or so. Giancarlo asks, again, how long does it take? But also, can you return to a previous completed floor if you want to collect every collectible in the game? Yeah, once you unlock a floor, by finding its corresponding floor button that you plug into the elevator, you can access it at any time. So yeah, you can go back to it and then re-explore those areas for the hidden collectibles or anything else you might have missed. Jessica Luna asks, is co-op only playable with single Joy-Cons, or can you use Pro controllers? I really have bad drifting on both Joy-Cons, but my girlfriend and I want to play together. Yeah, you can definitely use a Pro Controller. So I was using the Pro Controller myself, and my friend is using a dual Joy-Cons. So yeah, I'm pretty sure you can mix and match any combination of controllers you have. Spooky Monica asks, is it more fun to play than Luigi's Mansion 1? I mean, that's something you have to wait for the full review for. I really enjoyed the original Luigi's Mansion, and Luigi's Mansion 3 has pros and cons, so yeah, I can't answer that quite yet. Gabriel asks, any chance to have Daisy as a player 2 mode? If she's in there, I haven't seen her yet, and I'm guessing she probably isn't, so probably not. Next up, Twilord asks, are the enemies expressive, distinctive, and spoopy goofs, or would you ghost them? Alright, I don't know if I would ghost them, but I would say they're definitely on the spoopy, or rather goofier side of things. Like I said, like Dark Moon, they kind of have like a, rambunctious personalities, especially some of the boss characters. So yeah, and there is one or two of them that are a little bit on the spoopier side of things, I suppose. But yeah, they're definitely all expressive and distinctive. You know, even the ones that are reused frequently, they all have these very distinctive and funny animations. Critter asks, are there lots of wholesome brother moments? There are, I mean, you know, it's only during the opening sequence so far that you have interaction with Mario, so there is like one or two really cute interactions between them there. Beyond that, I haven't seen any other like brotherly love yet. I will say though that the game is just full of like charming, cute moments. Like Luigi's hilarious as always. A spoopy Halloween name Dom asks, is the game linear, going from floor to floor with no backtracking, or is it more Metroidvania-like, and they have to return to previous areas with new items and paths to unlock? Yeah, it's definitely not like Metroidvania, or if it gets that way, I haven't encountered it yet, but basically you start the game with all the powers you need. Or rather, after like an hour, you have all the powers you'll ever get, unless there's something I don't know about that comes up later on. So yeah, it's definitely not like Metroidvania. It's definitely much more linear in that you go floor to floor, and each floor has a corresponding elevator button you get, which dictates what floor you go to next. So yeah, it's pretty linear, even if some of the floors are a little bit more open to how you can go about exploring them. But yeah, on the whole, it's not a whole lot of open-ended gameplay here. Chris07 asks, is the humor and slapstick from Dark Moon going to be present in Luigi's Mansion 3? 100%. Like I said earlier, it's very much like that game in terms of its presentation and style. Duran Von Dur asks, is the game hard/easy, and does it include difficulty options? So as I said, it's already on the easier side, at least for me, and there are no difficulty options yet. Maybe there's a hard mode you unlock after you're done. If there is, I don't know about it yet, I haven't beaten the game. But yeah, from the get-go, there are no difficulty options at all. Scary Daniel asks, does the main music theme of the game get remixed, recycled, or reworked in the same vein as the first game for different areas? If it does, I haven't noticed. That's not to say it doesn't, I just haven't been paying attention to it, but I don't think the main game or the main theme doesn't stand out to me as much as it did in the first game. So it's possible, but I haven't really noticed if so. Zach Pack says, I have 3 questions. 1, is the brightness of the brightness settings all the way down and all the way up? Oh, sorry. How is the brightness of the brightness settings all the way down and all the way up? I haven't tested that myself. I only darken it to the level recommended by the game, and that's the level you can see in all of our videos, and I think it works pretty well. 2, how many different types of common ghosts are there? I believe there are 4? There's really, I mean, the game shows, I believe, 7, going by the compendium. However, 3 of those, I think, are just smaller versions of existing enemies. So I believe there are really only 4 main common ghosts. But again, the game does remix them in various ways. 3, his third question is, are there reasons to go back to previous floors besides gems/booze? Are there locked rooms to revisit? I mean, I don't think there are locked rooms to revisit, that I've noticed at least. Because you have all the abilities from the get-go. It's easy enough to overlook things, so I'm sure there's reason to go back if you want more money or to find those gems. Beyond that, and beyond the story reason or 2 I mentioned earlier, there's not a whole lot of reason to revisit floors that I'm aware of right now, besides booze as well, which is a good reason to go back, even though I don't know what you need them for yet. So yeah, full disclosure, I don't know what gems are for yet, I don't know what booze are for yet, and even if I did, I can't talk about what they're for yet, so that kind of works out, according to the embargo. Let's see. Professor Layton asks, is there a photo/camera mode? If there is, it hasn't told me about it yet, so I'm guessing that there isn't. It'd be really cool if there were, but yeah, there's no way to manipulate the camera at all, beyond what little control you have and just roaming the environment. Christian asks, Comparing next level games first Luigi's Mansion, like Dark Moon, to Luigi's Mansion 3, has next level games improved on the formula or added any new layers? Thanks for all you do. Yeah, I would definitely say they've improved their own formula, in that, again, it's closer to the original Luigi's Mansion than Dark Moon was. So I definitely appreciate that as a, series fan, as a fan of the first one especially. Skella John asks, is there any backtracking to old areas with new abilities to get new items and stuff like that? As I've already said, not that I've seen so far. Not again, beyond booze and gems. Let's see here. Red Hoodie 1E asks, are there any boos to be captured like in the first two? Yep, there are. There's one per floor. Luke asks, is it spooky? Yeah, a little bit at some points, as I mentioned, but not too spooky. So, Dead Toady asks, how many brand new voice clips does Luigi have? I think a fair amount. I mean, if they were reusing any, it didn't really stand out to me, and I wouldn't be surprised if they are. But yeah, Luigi has, I think, a fair amount of new stuff too, at the very least. Here's one from Giancarlo. How long does it take to complete each floor in Luigi's Mansion 3? Yeah, that's basically the question. So, it would take, I think, anywhere from half an hour to a little over an hour, depending on the floor. Some are a little bit longer, some are a little bit shorter, but that's probably a good average. There was one floor I completed last night, later in the game, that was really short, surprisingly short. But it had a sequence that led up to it that kind of extended the previous floor, that kind of offset that short time span. Let's see. Here's another one from Giancarlo. How big is each floor in Luigi's Mansion 3 in comparison to the floors of Luigi's Mansion 1 and Luigi Mansion Dark Moon? Oh man, that's tough because they're so different. Because I would say, like, I think the first Luigi's Mansion probably had more rooms per floor, which makes sense. However, the rooms of Luigi's Mansion 3 are far bigger. They're just much grander. They feel like just really big environments. Whereas in the first Luigi's Mansion, they were pretty small. As for Dark Moon, it's been so long since I played that game, I wouldn't be able to give you an accurate figure, so... Autumn asks, are the boss fights more interesting or fun than in Dark Moon? I would say they are. I mean, there's way more of them, and they definitely seem more memorable to me. There was one boss fight I can't talk about that was freaking awesome, in my opinion. So, yeah, I would say they're definitely more interesting than Dark Moon's. Nintrum O Lantern asks, or Nintendo Lantern asks, my apologies, how cute is a Polterpup? He's adorable, he's always so great, I love that guy. Spooky Frog asks, how does it do performance-wise? Is it able to hold a stable 30? I would say it's definitely a stable 30 most of the time. I think there have been a few moments where there is slowdown. I think I definitely noticed it when I was playing a co-op where there's a bit more going on. But yeah, on the whole, like, it's not bad. So if there is slowdown, it's not, or when there is slowdown, it's not nearly as distracting as it was in, say, Link's Awakening. Hamster Girl asks, are there any other characters besides just the main four, like such as Yoshi, Toadette, Bowser, Jr., etc.? So yeah, beyond, I guess it's Mario, Luigi, Princess Peach, the Toads, and e.gadd, and that's pretty much it. There aren't really any other major cameos that I've seen yet, unless you count. There was like a Prom Plant cameo I saw somewhere. Like, I think it was like merchandise in some store. And there are a couple other Easter eggs in the game to other next level games, like a Punch-Out reference so that you can see Lil Mac there and Doc Lewis. But yeah, beyond that, no other really Mario characters that I've seen. They could come up later. I don't know for sure yet. NeoCat asks, is petting the puppy the maximum cuteness in the game, or is there more? That's probably pretty close to the maximum cuteness, but that doesn't mean there's not other comparably cute moments. Brian asks, any secret bosses? If there are any, I haven't come across them yet. Jake asks, can you smooch Luigi? No you can't, that I've seen. CHG asks, is there any way to check on the portrait ghosts you've captured? Yeah, if you go to the compendium, you can see the whole boss history right there. I don't know if you can refight them. I'm pretty sure you can't, actually. You didn't ask that, I'm just bringing that up. But yeah, you can at least take a look at what you've captured. Let's see. Spooky asks, is there much replayability? That's a good question. I don't know yet. I'll have to check back in after I beat the game, because I'm not sure if it like tracks your high score like it did in the original Luigi's Mansion, or if it doesn't really matter. So I'll mention that in the review, probably. Let's see. JB asks, Luigi's Mansion Dark Moon didn't have any checkpoints outside beating a level. So if you died 20 or 30 minutes into a mission, you had to do it all over again. Did they fix this, or are there any checkpoints mid-level? So yeah, the way it works this time, I mean, again, keep in mind I haven't died much at all. With that said, the game auto-saves after every room, basically. So yeah, you'll always be able to go back to those one of those auto-saved save files. There's 3 of them. And yeah, so you won't be set too far back. No matter when you die in the game. So unless you made like a lot of progress within a single room and died during it, you're not going to miss out on much. Freddy asks, are the levels connected in more ways than just the elevator? If not, did the loop of beating a level, getting the button, and taking the elevator to the next level feel too linear? This is something that'll be better suited for the review, but what I can say right now, though, to answer your specific question, if there's more ways than just the elevator, I don't think so. I think that's pretty much it. The only major exception I can think of is that you can return to e.gadd's lab, which is in the basement at any time. However, even when you visit his lab, you can't. I don't think you can exit into the basement. So technically, there really is no way to go between floors without using the elevator. So yeah, I think. Oh, actually, I take that back. There is one. I think the bottom 2 floors or the first 2 floors, there is a staircase that goes between them, I believe. And that's about it. The rest of the floors are elevator only, in my experience so far. That changes later on. Again, I can't speak to that, but for right now, it's elevator only. Ickly Puff asks, a question we've already answered, so here's one from Budong who asks, how did the controls feel from the past 2 games? Or how did the controls feel compared to the past 2 games? I think they're probably closer to Dark Moon a little bit on the whole, in that you charge up the flashlight, and unleash it to create a larger beam of light to stun ghosts. And it also has a focus on more on a singular control stick, in that you can use that to aim and move concurrently, which Luigi's Mansion also had, but it definitely leaned more into the dual analog stick design. But there is an option to use both sticks, not to the same extent as in the first Luigi's Mansion, but more so than in Dark Moon, I believe. So it feels good overall. I wish you could have true, fully independent control at all times using the second stick, but I think they found a pretty good middle ground on the whole here. And I may be posting a video with more details about that coming up, by the way. Toxic Chozo asks, a question we already answered, so we'll move on. Teal asks, does the game have any post-game content? If it does, I couldn't answer that yet, so sorry. Console Warriors asks, is there anything to do at the safe camp? Also, is there more to buy with money than collectibles, radars, more than collectible radars and gold bones? So I think he's asking about e.gadd's little lab. So I'm actually looking at the screen right now, and the things you can access are the map itself, which of course you can do at any point in the game. You can return to the title screen. You can go to the multiplayer, which includes the ScareScraper as well as the mini games. You can talk to e.gadd himself, which again you can also do at any point by pressing pause. You can go to the shopping network, in which you can buy the 3 things I've already mentioned. You can go to the guide/settings page, where you can just find out information about the game or change a few settings such as the brightness and controls. You can go to the gallery, which is the compendium I mentioned earlier, and I think that's about it. Besides going back to besides exploring the hotel, which just takes you back to the point that you teleported from to the lab. So yeah, again, you can access the lab at any point in the game, and then you can go right back to where you were afterward. And that's pretty much everything, so let's go ahead and move on to the next question. Connor asks, are there any legitimately scary moments? Like I said, I don't think there's anything really truly scary. There are a couple of like creepy moments, but nothing that really like made me jump or anything. And I don't think Luigi's Mansion has really ever had any of those, so... Cinevizard asks, I'm sorry if I mispronounced that, let's say you never played Luigi's Mansion on the GameCube at all, and your first introduction was on the 3DS with the GameCube remake and Dark Moon. Do you think it would be easier to get the controls down for it and get used to? Yeah, I'd say so, probably. Yeah, without question even. Rage says, would you recommend to someone who's never played the Luigi's Mansion game? Yeah, I probably would. I don't think you need to play the whole series to appreciate Luigi's Mansion 3. Antonio asks, do you get more abilities, like entirely new ones? Yeah, I mean, there are some entirely new abilities, like the plunger shot thing you have, where you can shoot a plunger at enemies or obstacles in the environment and, like, throw them around, as well as Luigi, of course. But once you get those main abilities pretty early on, there's none beyond that point that I've seen. So, Dai asks, how's the music? It's fine. It hasn't really stood out to me. There's been a couple of tracks that I liked more than others, but on the whole, it kind of fades in the background so far. So it's fine, but not terribly remarkable. AD asks, is a multiplayer mode with Luigi just a gimmick, or could it be a full couch co-op adventure? Oh, it can definitely be a full couch co-op adventure, so it's definitely not just a gimmick. Yeah, if you want co-op, this is probably a pretty good game to take a look at. Linzovziski says, does Luigi have a special animation for when you move in circles a lot? Good timing on this question. I actually just tested this last night, and I don't think there is. Luigi just did a really slow circular turn. So yeah, if he has any special animation, I haven't come across it yet. Though that did remind me that Luigi running while he's scared is freaking hilarious. So, the animation in general, again, is just great. Skillazard asks, does switching between Luigi and Luigi get tiring, or the puzzles and interactive elements sparse enough to where it's not that bad? I would say, yeah, on the whole, it's not that bad. There have been a couple of puzzles I've encountered that got a little annoying with switching between the two, but it hasn't been that bad, and on the whole, I do like what he adds more than it annoyed me in some aspects. Jason asks, are you able to change the brightness? Yes, you can, as I already answered. Truly John asks, supposedly there will be DLC for ScareScraper and Scream Park. Any idea what those might be? I have no idea. I'm guessing probably just new, like, boss-type characters and, mini games for Scream Park, so... Ghost Bingus asks, in the Luigi's Mansion 3DS port, a lot of the character and charm of the game seem to be taken away, and the game felt more sterile. Does Luigi's Mansion 3 have the same feeling, or does it feel more faithful to the GameCube version? Yeah, I mean, I don't think it feels sterile at all, so I would say it's definitely more faithful to the GameCube game in that sense. I don't remember Luigi's Mansion 3 3DS feeling particularly sterile either, though, from my memory, so I'm not quite sure what you mean. But yeah, I haven't had any issues with Luigi's Mansion 3 in that, on that front. The Mario 64 says, can you play as the other colored Luigis and Gooigis in the single-player campaign? So I'm guessing it means in multiplayer you can play as different colored Luigis and Gooigis. As far as I've seen, there's no way to play as them in the campaign unless there's a post-game unlockable. So yeah, multiplayer is it so far. Brandon the Stallion asks if Daisy's in the game. No, or not yet at least. Toxic Quid asks, how big is each floor? I already answered that. So I think we're running out of questions here. Yeah, I think I'm just seeing the same ones over and over now. Oh, Spooky asks, are vacuum controls inverted? They aren't. So up is up, down is down, and as far as I know, there's no option to reverse that. Jake Silla says, any amiibo support? If there is, the game hasn't mentioned it yet, so I don't think so. There's no option for it, so pretty sure there isn't. Next up, Al Borland asks, is there any difference in reward between capturing a ghost by sucking it up or destroying it with a slam? Could you do a peaceful run where you capture them instead of destroying them? I think I think you could, I think you should be able to do a peaceful run. I'm not entirely sure on the bosses, but definitely for the main characters. As for if there's any meaningful difference between the two, I don't think so, but I haven't compared it directly. But if there is, the game didn't tell me about it, and it hasn't made it obvious that there is. If so. Positive Link asks, how does death as Luigi get handled when Luigi is still perfectly fine? So the way it works is, they both have their own health, completely independent health, with Luigi always spawning at 25 health, and whereas Luigi has 100 by default. And when Luigi runs out of health, he just disappears, and Luigi can just respawn him whenever he wants to. So it really isn't that big of a deal to get killed as Luigi, because Luigi can just keep respawning him indefinitely. The only catch is that he does just start with 25 health, so you can run out of pretty easily, but again, it doesn't really matter. Next up we have a question from Shezaz of Boundary Break, who asks, does the game have an area select like in Dark Moon, or is it beginning to end exploration like the original? So I can't answer this a little bit earlier, but just to clarify, it is pretty much like the first game, but it does kind of have like a level select in that the elevator is basically a level select, just one that is thematically appropriate to the setting in that, it's a hotel, so you're going to use an elevator to get from floor to floor. So it definitely feels more like the first if it also kind of functions like an elaborate level select. Finally, James asks, why is this game coming on a Thursday instead of a Friday? That's because it's coming on Halloween, man! Which I love, actually. I love that they're actually bumping up the release date to get it out in time for Halloween. And by the way, to embrace the Halloween aspect, there are actually jack-o'-lanterns on the first floor of the hotel, and when you pick one up with your poltergust, you can create like these these awesome looking shadows on the wall from the light shining through the jack-o'-lantern's face. It's hilarious, or just really cute. Alright, and with that, guys, that's all the questions. We're starting to get a lot of repeats there at the end. So hopefully this answered your most pressing questions. And gave you a little bit more information about the game. So with that, thanks for watching, and of course stay tuned to Game Explain for lots more on Luigi's Mansion 3 and everything else Nintendo Switch as well. We'll catch you later. Bye.